We're alive. Okay.
All right.
Come on.
So let's try this again.
Let's try this again. All right, let's go.
So we just wanted to, like I said, really put our baby story out there, because as we've talked to more and more people just on a one-on-one basis about conceiving their children and such, there are so many people suffering in silence with dealing with fertility issues, and it takes a toll on your mind, your body, soul, the whole package. And we just wanted to talk about how we overcame that, and just also how we got to the point that we're at now. Baby girl's been in there cooking for 8 months now, so she'll be here in 8 short weeks. So family, I hope this encourages somebody, because there are a lot of people out there who just are living in a veil of shame because of fertility issues, and they don't feel comfortable talking to people about it. So I just wanted to help to kind of break the ice on that, because especially in the Black community, it's just not something that we talk about. You want to start, or should I?
You can start.
I can start? I get to start?
You get to start. I'm supporting
Okay.
you, babe.
All right, that's cool. So rewind back to probably the summer of 2019. So we get to a point where we're like, all right, well, clearly there's something going on, because we're still childless, and it's been, how long?
3 years.
Yeah, like
Two and a half.
2.5 years, I'd say. So 2.5 years of trying to conceive. We were like, all right, well, maybe there's something we need to get checked out. Let's start, investigating what could be the problem. So we go to a couple of different doctors just to get, first and second opinion. And at first it wasn't really clear as to what was going on. Mostly every time I got like my hormone levels checked and such, they were like, well, your hormones don't look like you have polycystic ovarian syndrome. Had a couple of ultrasounds done. My ovaries did not have cysts on them, so that I couldn't be diagnosed with PCOS. And I was like, okay, well, I had to understand what's going on here. So we finally get to a phase where we're like, all right, well, let's investigate deeper. Amidst, of course, the doctor saying, well, you kind of are on the heavier side, maybe losing weight would help you. And I was like, okay, cool. I could definitely stand to lose some weight, but then, losing 50 pounds is going to take me a while. And I was like, in the meantime, I still kind of need to know what's going on. So I go and get another opinion, and then my doctor says, well, I think I do see what part of the problem is. And he says that a hormone called AMH, what is it, anti-Müllerian hormone, and don't quote me on that, I'm not a medical professional, but but yes, so he said, well, you have low AMH, and it's actually gotten lower since the last time that we've done blood work on you, so we're gonna have to do some other testing too. But he said basically people with low AMH can have PCOS-like fertility issues and not really understand why. So he says it's best that I go and see a fertility specialist and get an HSG done, which is when they shoot dye into your fallopian tubes to ensure that they're open. So I go and get the HSG done, and the fertility specialist says, well, one of your fallopian tubes is non-responsive. The other one looks just fine. And she's like, but don't worry about it. You only need one fallopian tube to be able to conceive. And I was like, okay, that's that's okay. I can handle that. A little bit of hormonal issue, okay. One fallopian tube, all right, is what it is. So then we go and do genetic testing. We go through the whole gamut, and we sit down and talk with our fertility specialist, and she pretty much breaks it down like, listen, honestly, it's not looking good for you, bro. And I was like, oh, I thought we, apart from a couple of minor setbacks, I thought we were going to be, all right. She's like, she said to us, honestly, your best bet would be to do IVF. And we were like, okay, well, let's send us a price sheet and let's, discuss it at home. We'll see what we want to do. She explained to us also the process of doing IUI and, the process of just doing follicle stimulation with Clomid. So we had, those 3 options on the table. So they sent us a nice little encrypted email with the price sheet, which we should have already known what the price is going to look like.
That's a Bentley truck. Y'all tripping.
But so we look at the price sheet, and I mean, minus your embryo storage, what else? The medication, and just all of the visits and ultrasounds and such. It was, what, $23,000?
For one round.
For one round now. That's if you're successful the first time. And I was like, ooh, sweet Jesus. Okay. Well, I'm not sure if we necessarily are prepared to shell out possibly, $60,000, $70,000 trying to conceive a baby. That's no. Woo. Man. So needless to say, we were very discouraged. Like, that was, by then it was the fall of 2019. And man, I was just like spiraling downward. I was like, man, I don't know if we're ever going to have kids at all. That's a lot of money. And, he's trying to be strong for me, and he's coping with it in his own way. But, it's psychologically very taxing when there's something that you desire and there's nothing that you can really physically do to make it happen faster or really make it happen at all. And that was a tough process. And I mean, honestly, our path through this process was all spiritual. It was all having to like really and truly learn how to trust God, to lean on God's plan for your life and not your own, and really lean on Him and not your own understanding. Because at the end of the day, regardless of all of the fertility technology that exists out here, we don't make babies. God makes babies. It's His will for your babies to be here. So, being able to really relinquish that pseudo sense of control was really, really hard. But man, all I can say is, especially personally for me, prayer and fasting was how I got through that. Like, actually a friend of ours, and shout outs to Nicole Ramos-Burrow, not Boo. But yeah, it's nothing short of God who told her to remind me about fasting, because I was working long hours. I was in an outage in the fall, and I was just trying to make it through each day without, just feeling numb and depressed. And she said, well, why don't you do a fast? And I was knee deep in an outage, and I was like, nah, there's no way I can fast right now. I'm getting up at 3:30 every morning. I'm doing like 15-hour days. No way. And after the outage was over, and I want to say probably we were approaching Thanksgiving, it was probably like the week before Thanksgiving, we just happened to talk about it again. And she said, you should really consider doing a fast. And I was like, okay, God, I get it. All right, I'm going to do a fast. So I did, I prayed on it and I said, all right, God, how long do you want me to fast? And he said 7 days, and write down each and everything that you are fasting for and make sure that you pray on that every day. So I said, all right, that's what I did. That was probably the week before Thanksgiving, and it was a hard time to fast too because we went to the Classic and I was in Orlando around all this food and I was fasting, and it was hard, but that's the whole point of the fast, is you making a sacrifice. And it definitely helped me just to really get some clarity. And it was right after that fast that I had a dream about our little girl. And literally, I had a dream about her in our living room. She's running around our living room in a little jean jumper. And I was like, oh, a little girl. And the next day I had a dream about myself sitting on the edge of my bed, and I was praying, and I had a really big pregnant belly. And I was like, okay. I said, well, I'm going to take that as confirmation, and we're just going to press on. So we talked it over as far as the, pricing and shell out the money for IVF or not to shell out the money for IVF. And we had opened our hearts to adoption as well. And we basically made the final decision that, okay, if IUI doesn't work, which was way cheaper than IVF.
It still costs some money, though.
It still costs some money. I mean,
it wasn't free.
$1,200 is not cheap. However, it's not IVF. And honestly, when we expressed our desire to try IVF anyway, our fertility specialist was like, okay, well, if you insist, we'll do it. But
I mean IUI.
IUI. So we wanted to try IUI anyway, even though our fertility specialist said, well, honestly, you just need to go straight to IVF. Can I say this part? You want to say it?
Yeah, so
okay.
we were talking, and we prayed about it, and $30,000 for IVF, I just could not see putting that kind of money into that. I just said, God, that you can't be asking me to do that, God. That can't be the God I serve. I said, I pay my tithes, I read my devotion, I read my word, we pray and fast. It said you cannot be asking me to take that out. So we're talking to the specialist, and I just literally had to let her know, because she kept trying to tell us about IVF, and I understand when she looked at the numbers, she felt like that was her best strategy. And I said, listen, you don't know who I serve, so I need you to focus and stop trying to push me over here. I said, listen, we're not doing IVF. So you can stop mentioning IVF. You can stop talking about IVF. I said, we're putting all our eggs in this basket. And we will do IUI, and I will pay you your money for IUI. But you need to make this work, and you need to start focusing over here. And this is what we're doing. I said, if God is going to do it, he's going to do it right over here. Sure. And the lady said that you have a 5 to 10% chance for this procedure to work. I said, it don't matter. I just need one shot. Let my boys get in there, and we just need one shot. I don't need get my boys in there and we marching. Okay. And I just need one shot. And she's like, okay, well, we'll try it if you insist, and we'll try for 3 rounds. Yeah. So normally she's already talking about.
Normally they do 6 months before you then reassess and discuss IVF or whatever other options. But she was like, for you, in your case, you don't have time to waste. So we're only going to do 3 months. And I was talking to her, and I was like, why are you talking about multiple rounds as if the first one ain't going to be successful? You already discussing multiple rounds. I said, I understand the other people in the other rooms, what you talking about.
But that ain't the God I serve. That ain't where we at. And we working on this right here. I'm not thinking about the second I start getting my mind on 3 rounds and IVF after that. You already discounting this. I said we coming to work. This is the one. So go ahead.
My turn?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, needless to say, we already went in with a very discouraging doctor's report. But she said, I mean, if you want to do it, then we'll do it. So, we scheduled a date and we started our first IUI cycle December 29th of 2019. We talked about Clomid dosage. And she said, well, normally we start you on, the bottom tier dose. And then if it doesn't work the first time, then we'll taper it up. And we were like, since we only have 3 months, let's start on that middle tier dose.
We're not going for multiple rounds. We're talking about multiple rounds. What would you do if you wanted it to work this round? What would you do? He's like, well, if you go to higher dosage, you get twins. I said, if God wanted us to have twins, low, medium, or high, we would have twins. So what I'm worried about that for, I needed to work this round. I'm putting my 1,200 on, I'm betting it on black, and we going this round. Stop talking about other stuff. Let's go. Let's ride. Go ahead.
Yes. Needless to say, we were like, all right, well, if we're going to do it for 3 months, then we're going to do it. So we started the middle tier dose, and boy, I definitely started to doubt that decision as it made me super duper sick.
That was my fault. That was
my fault. Gosh.
Y'all can hear me. That was
it
my
was
fault.
Horrible.
But
and I was so weak. But I was like, you know what? I just have to grit through this. And I kept I don't know how I knew this, but I was like, this is gonna work the first time we do it. So I am okay with suffering through this because I know this is gonna work. And that just boiled back to, really God perfecting our faith through this process and us saying, you know what, when you pray and ask God for something, you have to actually really believe that he's going to do it. That is part of the process too. You can't say, well, God, please do it. And then say, well, maybe he's not going to do it or have backup plans. Nah.
Double-minded man should never ask anything of God. When you put your hand to the plow, look straight ahead while you're looking back. Ain't no multiple months. This month.
Yes. So I get through the sickness, and the follicles develop on the correct side, the side with the good fallopian tube. So that was a plus. I was like, okay, I see you, God. All right. So I have 2 that develop, and we track them. And how it works is, with the Clomid, it forces you to mature follicles into eggs that can then be fertilized by sperm. So then they give you a trigger shot to force you to ovulate once your eggs mature to a certain size. So we were like, okay, it's maturing, it's getting there. And it was actually a Sunday that we did the insemination portion of it. I was ready for the trigger shot on the Saturday. I went in, they did the trigger shot, and everything went just so fast. Oh my goodness. They did the insemination Sunday, and after that it was like, okay, so what happens now? And they said, well, we're going to wait 7 days, and then you come back in, we'll do a blood test and see if it worked. And I was like, all right, well, 7 days it is. So we're waiting this 7 days. And in that 7-day wait, I'm just like, God, I know you've already done it. So I'm not even going to worry about it. And honestly, we just had the strangest peace, which I'm so grateful for. Definitely.
They call what, the following Monday?
No, the following.
What's that Sunday? They did the following Monday. Not the first Monday, but the Monday after.
Yes, Monday after. Actually, wait, no.
Yes, ma'am.
It was a Friday. But
Friday.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Okay, go ahead.
I think it was 2 weeks. Just kidding. But either way, so I go in for the blood test early the Friday morning, and out of nowhere, a friend of mine texted me and said, God told me to tell you that you've already done everything you need to do, and rest assured it's gonna happen. And I was like, see, God, confirmation. That's what I'm talking about. So I go in for the blood test, and they're like, okay, well, we'll call you later today. And I was like, so I don't get results like in a few hours? And they were like, no, it's not how it works. We get stat results, but, we won't call you till probably after 4 o'clock. And I was like, great, okay. So fortunately, I was off that day, so I didn't have to go to work and sit there and constantly think about these results all day. And her nurse calls me at like 4:15, and she's like, okay, well, let's take a look at your results here. So she looks at the results and she says, okay, well, your HSG was so-and-so, so, oh, yeah, you're pregnant. And I was like, come again?
She didn't know what she called us.
Yeah, because she surprised herself when she said it, because, getting pregnant on the first round of IUI is not a thing. Like, that does not happen for people.
Depending on who you serve.
Yeah, it's true.
Now we leave and we go to the doctor like about a week later, a couple of days later, right? And they do the ultrasound, and it's 2 weeks, right? And the doctor comes in and she's like, all right, I have to be honest with you. Now, this is the same lady that we talked to before. And, I was telling her to focus, right? And she says, what I meant was the procedure is 5 to 10% successful. She said, I did not mean that you had a 5 to 10% chance of success. She said, there's nothing in your blood work and nothing in your reports that would have told me that you would have been successful with this procedure. None, even more on the first round. She said, there's nothing, if I was betting, there's nothing that would have told me the first round you'd be successful. And I took that and I was like, listen, I told you who we serve. I told you it's different. God said this is how it's going to be and this is what is going to be done. But then as we're leaving out, she begins to say, well, just to give you a heads up, I want to warn you, I want to do my due diligence that people that go through fertility have a high chance of miscarriages. And I just want you to, be cautious. Don't tell anybody until the 12 weeks. Hold on and get there.
Yeah. So she still wants us to be cautious. And I mean, honestly, it's her job to do so. She's a fertility specialist. She deals with lost babies literally every day. And let's see, February 14th, of course I remember it because it was Valentine's Day. We go for our first official ultrasound so that she can check for the baby's heartbeat. And she had just had the most tragic case right before me.
I think we were the last people for the day.
Yeah, we were the last people for the day, and she just looked so defeated because she probably tried everything and gave everything she had to the previous patient. So she was like, all right, let's see what we got. So she goes in with the ultrasound wand, and we see our little speck there, and we see her little heart going like this.
And it was like 175?
132.
Oh, it was higher than that.
No, it wasn't.
You remember? I thought it was higher.
I remember. It's okay. But but yeah, so her little heart is in there beating away, and our doctor, our fertility specialist, just says, oh my gosh, I needed this today. She measures her. She measures perfectly for her gestational age, all of that stuff. And she's like, oh, man, this is great. She's got a great heart rate. Everything looks good. She's like, just keep taking your vitamins, eat healthy, do what you got to do, but it's looking good. Now, still don't tell anybody, but it's looking good. And just being able to be the case that actually gave her inspiration that day from having probably a lot of different failed pregnancies that day in her office was just a good feeling, especially on Valentine's Day, that being the first day that we heard our baby's heartbeat. It was everything, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to share my part because, when we talk about our baby story, the journey that my wife had and the journey that I have is two different journeys. Even though we're married and we're trying to conceive together, it's not necessarily the same journey. And I want to share because there's a lot of women groups and women will talk and support one another, but it's very few times that men tell their own story and very few times that men uplift one another and let them understand what they're going through. My wife's journey is different than mine. I spent my whole life up until I met her trying to avoid getting pregnant. That was my goal in life, was to not be pregnant. I can hear my mama, every time I call her, you better not be pregnant. You better not have no baby. You better not have nobody pregnant. And so I spent my whole life trying to avoid that. And I listened to people and they were like, oh, you should have your first year of marriage and have that, to be with one another. So we got married in 2016 and we took that to heart. We wanted to enjoy, we wanted to travel, we wanted to be with one another. And everybody would ask, and I only share this just so people can understand, people would be like, when you having a baby? When you having a baby? When you having a baby? Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, it was cool for people to ask. But what people didn't realize is that somebody later on that is having fertility issues, to ask when you're having a baby is so gut-wrenching. So I use the cover of we're not ready or we're not looking to do it later on to protect my wife and to protect our marriage from the million people asking us when you're going to have a baby. Yeah. If you're trying to have a baby and you're struggling and somebody asking you and then people giving you silly advice about go on vacation or relax or don't put so much pressure. Well, I wouldn't be putting pressure if you wouldn't keep asking me every 20 minutes. The pressure is you. Stop asking me and we wouldn't have no pressure. The people do not realize what they do to people and how they, and I know that it's coming from a loving place because they want us to have children. And I understand that. But if somebody was pregnant, they would tell you. So you don't need to ask. If somebody wanted to talk about that situation, they would tell you and they would talk to you about it. The asking and the questions really can do really big harm. I would see my wife cry. I would see all the situations that we go through. And it is it's gut wrenching. You know what I mean? It's not something that people go through in silence. And I remember myself having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he talked about how him and his wife used Clomid and it was successful for him. Now, the conversation we had, it was like really brief and it was out of the blue. I didn't ask him about that because we weren't actually trying to conceive at that time when we had that conversation. Mm-hmm. But I've since then I've called him and let him know that, hey man, you telling me that you and your wife used Clomid and you were successful was everything to me because it gave me comfort in myself saying, okay, Adam, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with your relationship if you're using fertility. It doesn't make you less of a Christian. It doesn't make you less of a human. It doesn't make you less of a man. It doesn't make you less of anything. There are a lot of people out there that have been successful. Michelle and Barack, they use IVF to have both of their kids. And you can see there are wonderful examples and people. So when they have shared their story, it made me say, okay, well, after we get through this and when God does what he does in our life, then I'm not going to hold back that testimony. I'm then going to share that with others. And then the hard part for me was that this was the first situation in my life that I could not fix with effort, with knowing somebody, with asking a favor, with money, with power, with influence. I'm going to be very honest. So God had to really sit me down and say, you can't do it without me. Mm-hmm. This is not yours alone. This isn't your cross to bear by yourself. You have to realize that I'm still God and I still sit on the throne and I make the decisions. And until you come to me and you come through me, this is not going to happen. because we tried for 2.5 years, and I tried to do it on our own, and we tried to all of the methods you see online, bought all that,
all the homeopathic
did all of that,
remedies.
okay? And God had to really sit us down and say, I need you to realize that this is something that I have to be in control of, and I'm going to get my glory, and I'm going to get my testimony through you. And, God, me really realizing that I could not do it without God, and I could not do it in my own effort, and I could not do it in my own strength, and no amount of money, power, influence would change our situation, was really big. And I think until I relaxed and relinquished control to that, God had to work on me. And I think each of us has our own story to get here. But I say our story and our testimony to uplift and empower, especially the men, because I feel like the women get help from other women. But I don't think too many men understand that it is okay. I have a, so far, 8-month pregnant wife here. And she is doing well. I think right now she's 4 pounds, 6 ounces. And big baby. I don't need no newborn diapers. I need at 3 to 6 months. I need the big one.
Not gonna wear newborn.
Yeah, ain't gonna be wearing no newborn diapers.
Not at all.
And God really had to use us, and God really had to settle us down and say, I don't care about the calendar. I don't care about what they say when you hit 35, when you do this, when you do that. I don't care about that. I'm in control. Don't worry about that. Don't let those things harm you. Don't let those things stop you. God has really been using us and has been, allowing. I try not to let the enemy get inside of my head. And this is where I struggled myself, because when the doctor said, you may have a miscarriage, and, we went this far, I really struggled in my initial part of the pregnancy in trying not to get too attached, because, if I get attached to it, what's going to happen? And I struggle with saying, that we're pregnant or do anything. I was like, well, if I jinx it, or I mess it up or whatever, and the enemy wants to use us. Even doing this video, I'll be honest with you, I almost wanted to wait until Layla was in our arms to do the video. And I had to, my wife, which thank God for her, she was like, we're not going to let the enemy use us that way. And let me be scared and be concerned with, what could happen if I say something, So we wanted to share and understand that God is in control. And we share to let other people know that it is all right. If you are having issues with conceiving, it is possible. And the report that the doctor gives you is not the only report. You do need to seek out help, though. I would say,
yes.
I wish we would have gotten help sooner. Mm-hmm. I wish we would have started this journey sooner. Yeah. I wish we've been to about 5-6 OBGYNs in Palm Beach County. It felt like a lot more. Felt like a lot more. A lot of people. It's a lot of people. Not everybody did all the same blood work, and everybody has their own techniques and their own stuff. But, we had to make sure that we were going down the right path, and God is still in control, and we thank Him for doing that. And we want to be a resource, and we want to be available and help other people. And it is still possible. You are okay. I think also we did some marriage counseling and different things just to, doing like a tune-up, making sure that we're staying on top of our stuff. Mm-hmm. And our marriage counselor actually talked about her fertility issues and talked about adoption. And when she talked about adoption, I had to go back and think about it. And then she mentioned that adoption was free in Florida, which I did not know. And the kids get free health care and free college and free lunch at schools and a whole bunch of different resources. And that's what really got us to be at peace and saying, you know what, God, if you don't allow us to conceive together, we will be comfortable adopting because I heard from somebody else that looked like me and they went through their own stuff, and I see them with their own adopted kids, and you couldn't tell it. Beautiful kids. You couldn't tell that it was anything different or anything like that. And I didn't know it was also free. I didn't know that those things were possible. Mm-hmm. So I think hearing that and talking to somebody and getting firsthand information made us be at peace. And I think when we got at peace with stuff and we allowed God to be in control, that's when all this stuff started coming together, because we both had to be at the same place. I remember last Father's Day, so last June, when she talked about the summer, I had to look around, and all my friends that I hang out with had kids.
Everybody was popping out babies.
Everybody was pregnant, and that was the first time that Father's Day, 2019 Father's Day, was the first time I was thinking about myself as a father. Before then, I thought about my father. I thought about my grandfather, and I know my wife had been, feeling that for years. That Mother's Day, she would be thinking about herself not being a mother instead of necessarily. And then that was the first time that the switch happened for me. That I had to come to terms with the fact that I was not a father and everybody else was. So I'm telling everybody else Happy Father's Day, and I'm not. And that's when it really hit me. That was really rough. That Father's Day, that time was really rough for me, and I really understood what she had been going through. Which I tried. It's hard to understand a fertility struggle and a fertility issue until you go through it. No matter what you tell somebody, I got you, I support you, I got your back. I understand. You don't. You really don't. No. And having something. And this is one thing I talked with her about when we were going through our fertility struggles. And it's hard to go to baby showers. And it's hard to go to first birthdays and kids' birthdays when you are struggling yourself. Yeah. And I did not understand that. I did not get it. And then when we got it, it all clicked. Because I said, well, you have friends. And I'll be honest with you, you have friends that are not married that were there and were able to support you and they're standing up there wanting their moment as well. Mm-hmm. So I had to then confront myself and say, people have supported me and may look at me and say, you have everything. You got the business and you got the house and you got the cars, you got the vacations. And I look at them and say, but you have the one thing that I can't get on my own. I can't have a kid right now and you have a kid. Yes, I can buy the house and the cars and the boats and the vacations, but that's on my own effort. That's on my own struggle. You have what I want. Some people, I say, I would trade with you and you don't even get it. But some people will look at us and say, oh, I would trade with you. And they're not understanding the struggle. And that was the first time that I really understood how other people felt. I thought I understood, but until you sit in that moment and you're there, then I'm like, oh, that's how people that would like to be married felt at our wedding. That's how other people feel when they go to baby showers and they say they can't do it and it's too much for them. Because it really, I didn't understand how somebody else's joy could bring me pain. I did not get it. And I get it now. And I understand it now. And I support those. And I understand and I support and I support people going through. And we want to be here and be a resource. So I tell everybody that's watching this video, if you're over 30 and you're looking to conceive and it has not worked, they say over 30, you want to try for a year and then go to fertility. Over 35, you try for 6 months. And over 40, you go right away. So if you're over 40 trying to conceive, you should be with a fertility specialist right away. And I would tell you we were 2.5 years and we should have went sooner. Yeah. But we just didn't know the information was not meant to, given to us. I was just like, you know what? When God happened, when God's will, it'll happen. And I was trying to keep it out of my mind. But I would tell you, go get checked out sooner, and make sure you do all your blood work and do all your different due diligence. And keep going until you find somebody you're comfortable with. And until you find somebody that you feel takes your issues and concerns seriously, and moves at the same pace that you move at. Yeah. And then still utilize God and trust God in that moment, because the doctor can then give you a report. You don't necessarily have to receive that. This may be the person that helps you conceive, but it may not necessarily be the way they may have on their plate, and the way they have set up to do it. So still trust God, but allow yourself to be used and allow that doctor and those facilities to be used. So we wanted to tell you our story. So we're 8 months in. Layla Cynthia Ramsey is on the way, and we're still here, and we want to support those that need our help. I know that was probably a long story, but this is where we are. So we want to thank you guys. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for all the support, the cards, the gifts, the everything. We appreciate it. Layla appreciates it. And if we can use our story and our testimony to help somebody else, just know that it is possible and you can do it no matter what the report says. It is possible. Don't give up.
That's right.
You have options, and you can be used through adoption. And I would tell you that there are a lot of kids that could do with a great home. And if you have a great home,
Especially
you can
black
be
kids.
used. There's a lot of black kids that are not that don't get adopted. And if you have a great home and you're trying to do that, I would challenge you to look into it. And it's free, and you get financial support to do that. So if you have a great home and you have love in that home that you want to give, there are not some wonderful kids out there that can use that great help, and that's something that we're still going to consider even after this. So we thank you guys for listening, and if you have any questions, you can put it underneath, or you can send it to either one of us individually, and we want to be a help and a resource to everybody. So anything else?
No.
All right, thank you. Let me kiss. Love you guys.